Hey guys, I'm Chris, and I'm going to draw this today while telling you my life story, or more so just how I became an artist. So, enjoy that.
How's it going? How's your day? How's your inside vacation? Mine's going mine's going all right. I'm getting all the chance to do more art, which is really what matters at the end of the day, right? So I figured I'd just talk about my come up, talk about what got me into art, what got me where I am today. Just get all that out of the way before I go any further into the channel, so you kind of know more about me. While you sit back and watch this drawing of Olivier Armstrong, I think. I finished this series last summer. I didn't really make a lot of art or anything. I just kind of watched it. She was the main kind of reason I got the main thing I took out of Full Metal Alchemist was this character and how like epic she was. And she was just such a badass, and like every scene she was in, she stole. I gotta be honest, that's who I remember most from the show. So take that with what you will. We're gonna move in to my life, I guess. You know, I've had a few interviews here and there that you may, if you really do some searching, you may find. But I'm not the best at interviewing, because I just get insanely anxious and I just get very nervous, you know. As I've stated before, this is the whole point of trying to get better at that. And I figured that if I just kind of started talking and trying to recount all my memories back to when, you know, it all began, what got me into drawing. The first thing I can remember is the Batman animated series by Bruce Timm. That was kind of where I picked up the pencil and I started just drawing that simple shape, right? That simple Batman shape where you got the ears, and it was mostly just the head that I would draw. You got the ears and the head, and then the one line to represent the head, and then the other ear, and then his little mouth shape thing that was just all, because it sort of had the dip for the nose, and it was two simple shapes that, like, when I put them together, it was like, whoa, that's Batman. I did it. I made Batman. And so that sort of like propelled me into this just short addiction of just drawing so many things. And like slowly as I was growing, you know, I moved into shows like, at age maybe 9 or 10, I moved into shows like Dragon Ball. Or should I say show like Dragon Ball? I got into nothing else but Dragon Ball as like a 10-year-old, like in the 90s. And like that show was just so magical to me. And so I just got real into that show, and there was like memories where I would have drawing competitions in like literally 3rd grade with like I had a drawing competition with my best friend Edward. To this day, he's my best friend. And that's like actually the first way we met was he drew Beavis from Beavis and Butthead, and I drew I think a Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And you know, after that competition, I got a lot of praise. Like as a 3rd grader, I got a lot of praise from all my friends and my classmates, and I think that was like kind of the first little dopamine hit, you know, the first like, whoa, people are noticing me if I draw a cool picture. You know, it's and that was like, so, you know, that kept me going. And then my mom got me the Fischers price Magna Doodle. That was incremental to, is that the right word? I don't know. It was incremental to like my who I am today. It was this little toy that you could draw on, and with this magnetic pin, and it would make these magnetic marks on a screen, and then there was a slider at the bottom where you could just slide it back and forth, and that would erase the picture, right? So I would just draw picture, erase, picture a race after another. I would just do that so many times, and I would just sit there literally for like a couple years throughout my childhood, just watching reruns of Dragon Ball and like drawing the scenes on the Doodle and then like erasing them. And it got to the point where I would like create my own villains. that Goku and his squad would like try to attack. I think I came up with a villain named Spencer. I don't know why his name was Spencer. It's like the most doesn't fit any of the Dragon Ball lore or anything. But I was like, I think Spencer is kind of like a cool different name that will fit, in that sort of story. But, in retrospect, that was a horrible idea. But I got really hooked on to the new Spencer arc that played out in my head. Like Goku had to reach a new state, like Super Saiyan, whatever number. At the time, there was that one Super Saiyan 5 fan art. This is gonna just turn into Chris loving on Dragon Ball, because that's basically been the constant my whole life was this show. But I would just think of plots and ideas of ways for Goku to surpass Spencer, and I think that was like my very first, like I didn't even realize at the time, at this point I'm like maybe 11 or 12. I didn't even realize I was like writing fan fiction and stuff like that, and kind of working on creating my original characters, if you will. And I would just have to try and figure out how they would overcome. And I like, little did I know I would be like trying to learn how to write, and like now I'm making original characters and stuff. Like granted, it'd be the Dragon Ball lore, but it was a step into making art and just kind of dipping my foot into that sort of creator's mindset. So, at this point I'm still a kid, and I'm coming up with random things. Like I think 10 or 12 is even too late. I don't even remember what age I was while I was using my Doodle. I think it was like probably 8 or 9. I was so young. So like I grew up a little bit, and I started getting into Sonic games, and this is where I almost turned, this is where I almost like followed my path to full Sonic fanboyism, but I didn't make it. I stopped just short. But before that, I got into the sort of Sonic. There's this one website that I used to frequent. Like at this point I'm like 11 or 12. I got all so far my ages are just so off, but just know that this is like before teenagers years. These are just like points in my life that I think were kind of important to what made me an artist today. So so I got into the Sonic games, and I started making like my own Sonic characters. And I don't even want to say their names because they're so cringy, but you know what? It's my tell-all. This is me coming clean with everything. So I'm gonna post them up on the screen and show you my main 2 characters I came up with. Neptune the Wolf. I'm a little kid at this point, you guys. Don't laugh at me. Neptune the Wolf and Zelpher the Wolf. I don't know why I was into wolves so much. I think it's because my mom was like a real big fan of wolves and always got like wolf blankets and wolf towels and stuff. But I thought wolves were pretty freaking cool, and I didn't notice many in the Sonic world, so I came up with these 2 guys. And for a minute there, I was like making sprite comics and everything, and there was this website called the Mystical Forest Zone. And it was ran by like I don't know their names. One started with a K, but I know there was one named Damien that was on that, and like drew the sickest drawings of Sonic. Like they could look like they came out of the game, and I was just completely blown away by this guy's like Sonic drawings. I think he for a minute started a comic called Sonic Adventure 3, and it like takes place after Sonic Adventure 2, and it just looks so real. So I frequented the Mystical Forest Zone, the MFZ, pretty often, and on that forum people would make like sprite comics of Sonic characters, and like on the website itself would just be this huge database of sprite sheets of like every single Sonic game that existed. For like somehow people were able to pull the character out of the game and put it on a sheet in every single frame. Like I don't even know how that process went down, but I started making those sheets of my OCs so I can then make little sprite comics. And I think this was like my very first introduction into making comics, was the whole sprite comic era. It's kind of an interesting part of the history. So after the whole Sonic phase, it was still kind of there, but I kind of died off a little bit. I started making video game art boxes on this. There's this website called vgboxart.com. It's probably still up, and you could probably still find my box arts. But that was where I started like really kind of getting into just making packaging for a second. But then that was like also another short-lived phase, and then I started reading Control Alt Delete, the webcomic, and then a ton of webcomics like Penny Arcade and everything, and I started making I started like trying to make my own webcomic, but it would never stick, and I would like post it everywhere and nobody would like really react or anything. So I gave up the webcomic thing for a second. Like, it was just another take. It was basically Penny Arcade, but like a poor man's Penny Arcade. It was like two friends that are hanging out talking about like just random things like video games or whatever. So after that, you know, I went to high school and I started like taking art classes, and I had to think about like what did I want to do. And at this point I'm still in the Dragon Ball, and like I'm sort of still in the anime and everything, but not as much as I was as a kid and am now. But like at that point, I think in high school days, I was like still trying to figure it out. So I didn't really know what artists were supposed to do. Like going out of high school, you know, there's always that dream where you want to be a Disney animator or something. You want to see your name in the credits of a Disney film. It was like always like Disney. It was like animation. That's kind of what, for some reason, what my mindset always was on. If I'm good at drawing, then to make money, I probably have to be an animator. It was just kind of the mindset I had. I didn't really know that there was so many other jobs or opportunities in being an artist. And, you know, at that point, I'm like late high school and trying to make decisions about college. And so I just kind of jumped the gun and assumed I wanted to be an animator. And then that's when I went off to the Art Institute. I went to the Art Institute of San Diego, and that, to this day, I do regret that. There's little parts where I don't regret, but like as a whole, I think I don't know. There's definitely positives that came out of it, but I still feel like I would have prospered if I didn't. But who knows, you know? Because, you know, it's very expensive, and I made a really cool group of friends who I am still friends with to this day. Like, I started being an animator and working in 3D animation and trying to like work in texturing, and then like halfway through college I was like, you know what, I kind of want to work in game art, because that seems to be where more of the art is, and you know, it's a little bit less controlled, it seemed. So I took a class prototyping, which they, you know, once I finished designing everything, like the characters and the environments, they were like, what else could we have you do? And I started designing textures and like hand painted textures and stuff. And then at that point I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I guess I could work at Blizzard if I make really cool textures. Because throughout all of college, I gotta be honest, you guys, throughout all of college, people would tell you, like, bash it into your skull, like, you're not gonna be a concept artist or like a 2D artist. That job's dead. Like, for some reason, all my teachers had such a grudge against being a 2D artist and just like being a concept artist and or a character designer. They would just say, you know, they would just tell you that, you know, you wouldn't have a chance. And like, let me also add on that they like hated any anime. Every teacher I had thought anime was like so cringy or something. They like, I remember one of them said, and I better not see those huge anime eyes on one of your drawings, to one of the students. And it was like, man, come on. Like, if that's what they want to do, just let them do it, you know? So honestly, throughout my time in college, it was definitely frowned upon to be a 2D artist or a design or an illustrator, you know. And I came out of that trying to be a game artist, and one of the teachers I met there got me a job at a game studio, which I'm very grateful for, and taught me, you know, the ins and outs. But he definitely carved out a spot in that studio for me to still work in 2D. And so that's kind of where I was coming out of college, was was making 2D sprites for a mobile game. So once I started making those, you know, 2D illustrations and those sprites, it was like I was working really long days. And, you know, I'm in the gaming industry now at this point, like right out of college. I think I'm like around 20 years old, 21, and I'm just not liking it. You know, it's taking away all of my time. And at this point, like, the only drawing I'm doing is making sprites for this mobile game that, like, eventually didn't go on to be anything. And I hit kind of a weird spot between working there. I also moved states at the time, so I was, like, kind of away from everyone. So I would just kind of be a hermit working in Washington, telecommuting for a job in California, which had 13-hour days. So it was a really weird spot, and it really sucked. And but I freaking made it through that, and I think it was worth it. It definitely added on. But, like, at that point, I'm still trying to apply for game art jobs, or game art as, like, texture artists or 3D artists. I have, like, a really minuscule 3D portfolio that I'm carrying around and trying to show to Microsoft and all these game art studios. I went on game, I don't even remember it, but it was like this website where you could just go by the state and see every single game company in it. But anyways, I was, like, going on that every day and trying to apply. At that point, I'm just working 13-hour days, being completely locked inside, wishing I could go outside. In the middle of that, I actually met my current fiance, and she's stuck with me, like, ever since. Leah, I met her while I was going through that, and I would basically keep her inside because she would hang out with me, because I would be, like, chained to my computer drawing up this art for this game for hours. You know, by the time I got off, it was like 8 or 9. And so the best thing her and I could do was just, like, hit up Target or something to at least get out of the house. And so I was, like, chained to that for a year, you know, for like a couple years, and that really kind of diminished a lot of my personal relationships because they kept me working for so long. So I had to get out of there. So what happened was I actually got a job. It was working through a contractor for Google Maps. So at this point, I'm like 23 or 24, and I'm working that Google Maps job, and I'm working with Leah, and I'm working with my friends, and life's going good. You know, they served free food there for lunch, and that was pretty epic. Like, they served actual meals. The people there were incredible, and it was managed so well because there were, like, games and company events and stuff. But the work itself was so mind-numbingly boring and so horrible, and I wasn't really a really great team player because, like, at the end of the day, I just wouldn't do it, and I would just draw in my sketchbook at my desk. Like, I would just spend every break drawing, and it got to the point where I would just actually end up drawing more than the data work. And it turned out that it was good because I started posting the drawings that I would draw at work on Instagram. Like, that at that point, I made an Instagram, you know, at 24, 25. I just started posting drawings there, and I started getting likes. And unlike any other time that I've posted a drawing to the internet, whether it be at, like, a forum or just to chats or whatever, it was so much different posting these drawings to Instagram because you could just see that people would like them. And they were people I didn't know at first, and it was just like a couple of likes rolling in. And it went all the way back to that moment where I won that drawing competition in 3rd grade, you know, just having people like the art, and that gave me the same feeling. It's just an endless hunger. What it is really is it's like the hunger for like maybe if I can draw this and people like that, then I could try something else, and then people will like that more, then I'll go down that rabbit hole. But that being said, that was like kind of what got me back into drawing all the time, was seeing that people were liking my stuff online. At that point, I started drawing the Pokemon, the Reimagimon project. Like, I gotta tell this story. Another sort of drawing challenge is where this thing came out of. It was with my boy Liam, who I met at the Google Maps job. Liam Savage. That's his real last name, is Savage. That's badass, right? If you search it on Instagram, you'll find his art. He's a great artist. So we did a sort of challenge where we had to draw our version of a Pokemon within, it was like 3 minutes or something. And so I drew that, and then it was like a really weird version of Pikachu. It was like the version that you see now in the project. And he was like, dude, what the heck? That's so crazy. And he like told me I should keep doing that, and said, dude, you should draw more. You should like do the whole first generation. I was like, what? Okay, wait, that's a lot of drawings. But then at the same time, I started watching like Jake Parker's videos where he came up with the whole draw 100 somethings, and like and I was like, you know what, maybe I should go for it. And I took that inspiration and what Liam said, and I just went full steam ahead with the Pokemon project. And I think it was a year and a half or something. I finished them all, and I made a book about it, and I made a Kickstarter, and I kickstarted that book, and that's what kind of got me into this sort of creator mindset. And that whole project helped me learn so much about being just a creator in general and marketing my stuff. So I was starting to see people saying things like, I really like your style, and at that point I'm like, what? I don't really have a style. I just draw what I see. Like, most of my drawings were pictures of just whatever style that show that I was drawing the thing from would be. And people were saying, I like your style, and I was like, okay, so that means I guess I had a style. And it's really weird. Like, I know a lot of artists nowadays come to me like saying, how did you find your style? But the truth is, I kind of didn't. It sort of found me, like, over time. It just kind of turned into what it was. And my quick answer to that, it was, I just took all of my favorite artists and I put them together into a mixing pot. But I feel like it's just so much more than that, you know? It's all of your experiences added up into, like, the artist you are today. That's your style. It's, like, even today, I posted a Killua drawing from Hunter x Hunter recently, and a lot of people were like, dude, this looks like it's like a Sonic version of Killua. And I drew so much Sonic as a kid, so I mean, that's why I could understand. Thanks to the Pokemon project, it just gave me a sort of consistent thing to post. It's something that people could come back for, so they would stick around. And then it was also hugely beneficial to trying to understand routines and getting a schedule down. You know, I had to post 3 of these guys a week if I wanted to finish the whole project within a specific timeline that I set up for myself. So that project helped me get in the mindset of just being productive even when you couldn't be. Like, if I would draw a picture and I would just be stuck on it and trying to figure things out, I learned that at some point you just need to move on, right? That's a very important skill to have. But why, you know, at the same time you want it to be still presentable. But I was able to kind of meet that with the whole Pokemon project that I took on. And, you know, in between this time at Google Maps and this next job coming up, I was also considering on trying to table at artist alleys and conventions. So then I had to take on the big endeavor of like having a breadth of work to have at a table that people will see. And I got to the point where I was like trying to make a ton of little series that I could sell, whether it be like a series of stickers or prints. And so I was kind of testing my foot in the water with the whole Comic-Con Artist Alley thing. And I think the very first one I did went really well. And I was able to see like what stuck and what didn't. And then from there, it was just refining. So I eventually got to the point where I felt like the Google Maps job was just not doing it for me creatively. And then I moved on to a job where I kind of resized images to fit on household items for like souvenir shops and whatnot. But it still didn't really fulfill me creatively because I got I would have to take on projects where it was like I would take one image of an octopus and have to place the text of one aquarium to like hundreds of different other aquariums, and that would like one of the weeks I worked there, I just remember spending 8 hours every day through that whole week of just rotating aquarium names out of that same image. And it was not doing it for me. So I continued my crusade on trying to find a job that, you know, creatively let me express myself a bit more. And then I got an interview at Funko, and I was like, what? Because at that same time, I started kind of collecting them. And so when I went into the interview for the job, I brought like all of the work that I had been working on since I started that job at Google Maps, you know, between all the Pokemon redesigns and all the sketchbooks that I had been filling up and all the con artwork that I've been preparing for Artist Alley. I just brought it all and I showed it to them, and I think they liked that. I think they liked seeing that I had a huge backlog of art and traditional media and sketchbooks, you know. I think that was also a very important thing, because I feel like the interview part wasn't very well articulated on my end, much like this whole story I'm telling, but I believe they liked the art enough to bring me on. And so that was definitely a dream come true. And then to even put a cherry on top of that dream, I then worked my way into the more anime side of things, and I was able to convince my manager that I was a huge fan of Dragon Ball, and he put me on the Dragon Ball concepts. And then I saw it as like a kind of full circle situation, right? I thought back at that kid that was just eating dinosaur chicken nuggets and drawing Goku over and over again on his Magna Doodle, and now here I am making concepts for that same show as an adult for toys and everything. So it's a real dream come true, and it's a really cool experience to have. And so I skipped a few things that I forgot to address. The Pokemon book, I actually remembered that I finished it at Funko. I wasn't at Google Maps while I finished it. And then I was like, what do I do next? And so I just started doing fan art and reading My Hero Academia. That's when I picked that manga up, and I was just enthralled by the like absolute beautiful imagery that the author would draw, you know, in that manga. It would just be all these different types of interesting perspectives, and even conversation scenes had these really interesting angles, and that I found a real love for Horikoshi's style, and I wanted to try my hand at dynamic angles. And so I started making fan art of any sort of regular everyday character. It definitely helped me improve in drawing bodies a lot, kind of referencing a lot of Horikoshi's work and whatnot. But yeah, and then I just did that for a year straight and made an art book of all of that, and now here I am. So that's everything. That's where I am now. I'm happily designing anime stuff at Funko while at the same time working on my own stories, and still pumping out fan art when I can, just so I can keep improving on that sort of dynamic camera angle. And you know, then I started a YouTube channel, and here I am. Hopefully I can pass on some of that knowledge to you guys and articulate it well enough for you to understand. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. Until next time, I have no idea what my next video is going to be, but I want to keep making them. So expect one coming out soon. Take it easy, y'all.